My article is Monsters to Martyr, Representing Mary Dyer by Ann Miles. It's a very interesting article. It was brought out on very much a feminist view. Ann Miles begins with Anne Hutchins and talks a little bit about her, but she also brings out that Anne Hutchinson is not the only woman that should be presented in early American history. She goes on to talk about the closeness of Mary Dyer and Anne Hutchins and how their closeness is what brought them together, and that goes on to talk about the death, the stillborn child of Mary Dyer, and the deformity and what they consider the monstrous view of this child. Of course, during that time, they really felt like the death of this child was based because Mary Dyer wasn't living according to the Puritan rules and that she was being punished through her child. And then she goes on to tell how Mary Dyer left the Massachusetts Bay Colony with Anne Hutchins when she was excommunicated, and that her and her husband William went on back to England. And then when Mary Dyer came back from England, she had joined the Quaker Friends, and that she had become from this quiet woman of the Puritan stance to a very vocalized Quaker, and in her Quaker belief. Many times she would go back into Massachusetts. She would be jailed, then released after a while, and then at one point in time she was jailed, and to teach her a lesson they were going to take her to the execution block. Well, with two of her friends that were executed before her and she felt she was ready to die, they gave her a reprieve and put her back in jail for a while, then released her. Well, then she just kept coming back, and on June the 1st, 1660, Mary Dyer became the first Quaker martyr and the only female martyr of the 17th century. In this, Miles brings out a lot of that Mary Dyer needs to be studied more. She should be brought forward in history more than what she has been, and that there's more to learn from her and what she had to give than there was for Anne Hutchins. She talked about the female agency acting according that Mary Dyer was acting according to God's will and God's power, and that her theme of her life is full of affiliation allegiance, that she grasped her allegiance to Anne Hutchins and followed her. She grasped her allegiance to the Quaker Friends and was willing to die with them. And she goes on to bring out that she was dying for her religious community. And this is part that really got me, is that as a martyr for God and God's will, you should be willing to walk joyfully to your death for God and preaching Jesus' salvation. Yet Mary Dyer was willing to go to her death for her Quaker religious community. And there is a difference to me in why. Part of me thinks that maybe Mary Dyer chose this life and this attachment because of the Puritans and the way they treated her during a tragic time of the death of her child and the deformity of her child, and how they rejected her in the belief of her just wanting to have a little hope in the life. She went from a quiet young person to a very vocal, and interesting article in how Ann Miles wants to bring the 20th century feminist movement into the 17th century, which you can pull out a little bit, but according to one of my other articles I read, it seems like a lot of people want to go back and rewrite history to what the 20th century is today instead of living in the history of the time. And but it was a really good article, and can't wait to hear anyone else's view on it. Have a great night.